The mistake that is done by him would reflect on the image of the company. How can I become a member of a company? You can become a member by prescribing to the shares of the company. Public limited companies have got listing and they have a lot of access to all the exchanges. Good morning and welcome to the model question paper solving session for the B.B.A 5th semester company law paper. Now, this particular paper is a very interesting paper where you can score very high marks provided you understand the concept and write the relevant answer. So let's just get into the question paper solving, starting with the 15 marks. So the first question that's coming up on the screen, you need to write 2 questions of 15 marks. So this particular section will carry 30 marks weightage. Now you understand this factor very clearly. Part A, if you write 2 questions clearly, neatly, with relevant examples, you can score this full 30 marks and there itself you have passed the examination. So please do spend some time in writing this 15 marks question in a very neat and a legible manner. So let's start here. Let's go on to the first question coming up here. The question is, define joint stock company, explain the different types of companies under the Companies Act of 2013. Now, a joint stock company is basically a company which is a combination of people in terms of put together, held by the shares, held by the promoters all together. Now, there are different types of companies that we'll come to know, namely starting with public companies, private companies, government companies, foreign companies. Then we have companies like the holdings, which we are talking about. Then we will have companies known as the subsidiaries. And then we also have the partnership formats altogether. Now, each one of this company will have their own format in terms of the respective way how they have been formed. Now, whenever we talk about publicly listed companies, that means they have more than 7 people on the board, and these are the publicly listed companies have a large market capital. They are all listed in the board and they are all listed in the stock exchanges, which means to say the visibility is very high. Private companies are one which are not listed. They can have anywhere up to 50 partners. They're coming into picture, 50 people on the promotion board. Then we have the government related companies. When I talk about the government type of companies, which means 51% of the stake is held by government. They're purely run by the government. Then we have the foreign companies, namely MNCs, which have their offices in India, but then they're not listed in India. Their head offices are located elsewhere. So this is where you will have the different types of companies coming into picture. Now, how will you answer this question? First thing is that you will define the joint stock. Then once you start getting into public company, give a brief description about what is a public company, what are the features of public. Similarly, that for private, government, foreign, subsidiaries, holding companies, all this required to be described in detail with the relevant examples. So if you write this question in this particular manner, automatically you will be able to get complete marks here. Now, moving further, what do you mean by lifting of corporate wheel? Under which circumstances this would happen? Now, please understand the meaning of corporate wheel. Let me just again go back to the word called as wheel here. Now, there are circumstances, situations which you need to understand where a person's mistake, he might be the director, he might be the CEO, he might be the managing director, whatever he is in the company. But the mistake that is done by him would reflect on the image of the company. So now what happens is that the company cannot be held liable for the mistake done by the individual. That is where what happens is that you need to pierce the corporate wheel. A wheel is typically something like a curtain. So what happens is that in a physical sense, when we are speaking, people hide behind the name of the company and the company's name gets spoiled in the market. So what the NCLAT, the National Company Law Tribunal, what they typically try to do is that they find out the person, they lift this corporate wheel, they lift that entire shield outside, and they find out that individual who is responsible for committing that mistake. So that is what we mean by saying lifting the corporate wheel. In what circumstances? When that particular person has been found guilty in terms of doing that particular business, when that particular person has been found in terms of doing any fraud or scam, then automatically the government, through the respective legal authorities, the Companies Act, will go forward in terms of lifting the corporate wheel. Followed by, who can become the member of a company? Explain the various methods of acquiring membership. Now, what is a member of a company? So we know that there is membership available in many forms. There is membership available for a club, there is membership available for a forum, there is membership available for some committee. Like this, how can I become a member of a company? You can become a member by prescribing to the shares of the company. You can become a member by prescribing to the Memorandum of Association of the company. You can become a member by signing up to the Articles of Association of the company. And when you are subscribing to it, the company needs to acknowledge and your name has to be registered in the list of members. That is the registered list of members. Automatically you would become a member of the company. Now, why is it so important to become a member? What is the reason behind it? What is the importance behind it? The importance here is that you would try to understand at some point of time, the importance is more about getting the rights, getting the power of being a part of each and every decision that is taken up by the company. Now, for example, let us say that the company wants to propose any new decision. The company wants to talk about any new methodology, idea. They want to come up with a new proposal, new project, new dimension altogether. The members of the company will be given the first priority in terms of raising their voice, in terms of raising their opinion. So that is always very, very important that a member is given the first priority altogether. So that's why gaining the membership in the company becomes a vital importance. Now, the members will also have voting rights when it comes to the board of directors, voting the chairman of the company. So the members are supposed to be the most indispensable part of the organization. Now, moving further, what is a memorandum of association? Classes of memorandum of association. Now, when we are talking about this, now we all know that memorandum of association is the heart and soul of the company. So whenever we talk about memorandum of association, we try to say about what are the features of the organization. So it will talk about the institution, the origin, what are all the clauses, what are all the vision, mission statement, what is the purpose of the organization, the very existence of the organization, the address of the company, where is the headquarters located, what is the purpose, the strategic goal of the company. Everything would come under the memorandum of association, which means to say that the memorandum of association is something that needs to be understood to the maximum depth as far as possible. Many people think that memorandum of association is just like a letter. Definitely not. Memorandum of association is a formal agreement, is a formal document which will list out all the rules, regulations of the company. So if you are going to become a member, if you're going to become a part of the company, you need to go through the memorandum of association. You need to sign on that. You need to accept the terms and conditions of the existence, the purpose, the vision of the company, and then you will get into the membership. So memorandum holds a very, very important place altogether. Now, the memorandum can be altered on a basis. The articles of association is even more stricter. We cannot just go on altering the articles. Now, the next one, we will move on to the 10 marks question. Now, in this section, that is the part B, you will have to write 10 marks question, 3 questions. So that's another 30 marks that we are talking about. Already we have spoken about the 15-mark question. 2 15-mark questions can get you 30. Another 10-mark question, that is if you write 3 questions correctly, another 30 marks wait for you. So 30 plus 30, 60 marks of the total 80 marks is already available. So you can score 60 out of 80 by just attending part A and part B thoroughly. Let's go further. The first question coming here is difference between a private company and a public company. Now, moment I use the word private, what is the most important thing? Private company itself means that it is not listed. Public company will means it is a listed company. Secondly, the number of people that is needed to form a public company is minimum 3, max. It keeps on going up today. And for a public listed company, it's like 7, and then it goes on n number. Whereas in case of private limited company, the number of people needed to promote its maximum is only 200 here. Now, the next thing that we are going to talk about in a private company is that for a private company, it is not mandatory that they have to call for EGMs, AGMs, and again start giving dividends and all kind of reports altogether. But for a public limited company, it is mandatory that they conduct AGM. It is mandatory that they will allow people to know about the factors of what is happening altogether. In a private limited company, though there are shares, but the shares are non-transferable in nature, which means it will be within the members only. In a public limited company, the shares are transferable in nature. So, which means to say that at a particular point, after the existence, the end of the member, he can transfer the shares to whomever he wants. The second thing is that the public limited company will have more access to market capital with regards to that of a private company. Why? Because public limited companies have got listing and they have a lot of access to all the exchanges. In case of a private limited company, because they are not listed, their amount of accessibility is considered to be quite lesser. So this is what you see as a difference between public limited company and a private limited company. Now, explain the provisions of the Act of Company Act of 2013 in relation to holding extraordinary general meeting. Now, this is very, very important. Let's have a quick run through it. Now, this is called in short form as EGM, Extraordinary General Meeting. Now, what is an extraordinary general meeting? Normally, whenever the company feels that they want to discuss about their reports or about their results or about their provisions or anything, they call for an AGM, which happens every year once, and that's why it is called as annual general meeting. But if the company wants to take a quick decision, company wants to make some changes on a rapid mode altogether, they call in for something called as extraordinary general meeting. Now, what is the meaning of extraordinary general meeting? Which means to say that this meeting is not like the ordinary meeting at all. This meeting is one where I am going to call for people. I am going to tell people very, very clearly about some sort of changes that is going to happen. And for an extraordinary general meeting, I don't have to take my permission of the shareholders, the board members and other things. You just have to just pass on the resolution saying that through the company secretary, the company is calling in for an extraordinary general meeting, and this can be done at their own time and premises so that they are able to pass on the resolution faster and send the notice to the respective shareholders saying that the company has taken this decision on this particular instance altogether. So that is what we call it as extraordinary general meeting. Now, this is very, very important for us. Why? Because using this only, we would be able to go further and we would be able to understand how it works, because extraordinary general meetings are normally held today in terms of, when a promotion of a CEO comes into picture, or suddenly somebody walks away from the top management, there is an inclusion feature, or the company is going to diverse its products, it's going to build in some special loans. All those kind of categories will be included in the extraordinary general meeting. Followed by, what is a prospectus? Write the contents of a prospectus. Now, this is a very interesting question. Why? Because prospectus, the word itself, is very, very known to all of us. We are not new to prospectus at all. Starting from our college, from our school, from everywhere, every institution will carry something called as prospectus, which will talk about their institution, which will talk about the organization. So similarly, when we are coming to companies, they also have something called as prospectus. Now, for the companies, prospectus is the tool through which they would market themselves to the public. So the prospectus consists of all the documents, including the balance sheet. It would also carry about the factors of the mission, vision, their group ideas, existence, architectures in terms of their hierarchies, what they are, about their growth and their history of the company. It would also talk about why they are launching the IPO, what are all the projects they have undergone, who are all the members of the company, what are their qualifications, how much have they achieved till now, what is the milestones in terms of financial achievements, where are all they have been listed, delisted, what are all the companies gone through in the last few years. All those factors, every single minute detail about the company in terms of its history, existence, management, hierarchy, financial assets, their limitations, their any kind of outstanding loans, everything would be dealt in terms of the prospectus. Now, the prospectus is a very important document. Why? Because if anything that is found to be untrue, anything that is found to be misleading to the investor can file a case against the company stating that the company is trying to cheat people and borrow money. So it is very important that in the prospectus, you mention only the truth. You tell them very clearly what are all they have done in the past few years, in the past 10 years, 15, 20 years of existence, and tell them very clearly how we have gone through the system, and then make this entire prospectus clean and clear enough for the investors so that they will be able to subscribe for your shares. Followed by, explain the concept of CSR. Now, most of us know what is the meaning of CSR. CSR stands for corporate social responsibility. Now, this corporate social responsibility is a very, very important act that is coming in for every companies. Post 2000, all of us know that the Birla Committee, that is the Aditya Birla Committee, had come up saying that every company should become a part of the CSR activity where they need to contribute something to the society where they exist. Now, the art of CSR is not just about donating money or giving away something. The concept of CSR is to make yourself aligned with the society, making yourself even more eligible and also being, understandable to the society. Now, let's say that a corporate social responsibility you want to do by promoting free education to children. It doesn't mean that you are just going to market yourself through that activity. What you have to do in terms of coming to corporate social responsibility is that 5% of the company's turnover needs to be dedicated to a particular fund through which this activity will be happening. So every company will have a trustee or a foundation group which will be headed by a selective group of committee named the CSR committee itself, which will oversee the activities of the corporate social responsibility. So now what happens here is that the corporate social responsibility starts working towards a particular goal, a mission, where they take up sports activity, education, healthcare, women empowerment, child benefit, or it is going to be in terms of providing skills, employment benefit facilities, scholarships. All those kind of activities are going to happen under the brand name of the company. But then what is very important here is that this is a not-for-profit activity. So if the company tries to misuse the entire concept and they start making money out of it, then the purpose gets defeated. So that is the reason whenever we talk about the corporate social responsibility, we make it very clear that this activity is for a specific purpose, for the development of the society and not for personal purposes at any point of time. So when you are writing the answer, you can write this answer with a relevant example. You can give ITC, which has come up with the classmate when we are talking about e-Chowpal, which they have been doing, or you can talk about the Procter & Gamble PNG, which started with Shiksha Foundation, where they have given free education to so many children across India. You can even talk about ITC's e-Chowpal, which you have been spoken about. The Tata Group, which has done a lot of benefits in terms of healthcare and also in terms of sports and other activity. Reliance Foundation, which has been doing and providing meals for so many people across India. Now, all those kind of examples, when you quote it with the relevancy to the answer, then automatically you will be able to score better marks. Followed by the legal provisions related to a company meeting. A company meeting itself is something which is very legalized in nature. It has got a structure, it has got a format to be followed. It is not that I just call for a company meeting, everybody join hands and yes, it is done. Now, what happens in a company meeting is that in a company meeting, we normally tend to understand, we normally go forward in terms of understanding the agenda. Then we have the minutes of meeting, which is said to be MOM, followed by the follow-up details. And then these things have to be uploaded by the company secretary to the shareholders. It has to be made available to the relevant authorities like SEBI, NSE, BSE, and all those factors. Now, what is a company meeting all about? The company meeting is all about a series of set of meeting or a series of documentation procedure which is going to be spoken about a particular issue, a particular area of interest. Let's say it might be about raising the capital, or it might be about the new business that they want to start, or it might be about a diversification, it might be about a spin-off. Whatever might be the topic, there needs to be an agenda, minutes of meeting, and the follow-up which has to be done by the company secretary, and all these documents have to be uploaded back, which should be available for the investors as well as for the management and for the shareholders, the respective shareholders, so that they come to know in a transparent manner what has been spoken up in the last meeting and why the follow-up has been taken place. Followed by, now let's come to the part C, where we're going to talk about the 5 markers. This is a very simple one. You need to answer any 4 questions. So 4 into 5, you're going to score 20. So we have already seen a 30 marks in part A, 30 marks in part B, and a 20, which makes a total 80. So if you can just follow stepwise, you can score complete full marks in this paper. So the first question that's coming up with concept of LLP, which stands for Limited Liability Partnership. Now, this is a very new concept, rather I would say, to our thing. Why? Because moment you start talking about chartered accountants, lawyers, architects, or doctors, and all the self-styled professional, they all have their own institutes, they have their own association, own offices, which are basically running under a partnership basis altogether. So here the partners are liable for running their company. They cannot borrow any extra capital, and they cannot take it in form of shares or do any external sourcing. Whatever happens, the partner is liable and partner has to bear the cost of running the firm. The partners in total will publish the annual general report, that is basically their financial reports at the end of 1 year, and they will give it off telling that what has been their profit and loss. followed by duties of a company secretary. Most of you know that the company secretary is the most important person when it comes to the operations, running and the management standpoint of view. Why? Because the company secretary will be the person who is the spokesperson of the company. So his first and formal duty is to conduct the meetings, which is very, very important. The next one is that the company secretary is the person who would be in the appointments committee. The company secretary would be the person who would also go in for any call of IPOs or any other factors. He is the person who holds all the documents. All the key documents would be under his control, like the MOA, articles of association. Plus, the company secretary will also be involved in the appointment of chairman, CEO and all that. That is, he's an integral part of the board and other committees put together. Now, what are the liabilities of a promoter? This is also quite interesting. The promoter is a person who will just promote, who will just invest his money. Promoter doesn't have to be an active person in terms of coming in and working and being a part of the operation. Promoter is a company who just comes forward and gives some idea and he puts in some money or thought process in terms of starting up. But then the liability of the promoter is that tomorrow when the company goes for some winding up, or there might be some situation where the company is going under loss, they're going to sell it off or they're going to give it off, the liability of the promoter comes in terms of handling those issues, giving back the capital, managing the system, all those factors. So promoter is equally liable for all kinds of basic legal functionalities as well as in terms of giving back in terms of the winding up of the companies. What is a CIN? This is basically a corporate identity number or a company identity number. This is just like your PAN number, TIN number. This is a corporate identity or a company identity number because every company will have a unique CIN number through which they can be identified and they can be recorded altogether. The last one, when we're talking about what are the rights and powers of the chairman is supposed to be the head of the board. So this is what we would say a chairman all about. The chairman is elected by the board of directors. The chairman is supposed to be different from the CEO because the chairman's functionalities comes more towards the board and the overall management. The chairman does not come into the operational activities of the company. The chairman is also responsible for guiding the company in terms of the vision, mission statement. So the chairman as a person will have the power in terms of controlling the board, controlling the activities of the management. The chairman will also have the rights in terms of calling up for meetings or calling for any kind of changes in terms of top management. And the chairman will also have the rights in terms of saying the final decision when it comes to annual general meetings or any other extraordinary general meetings. With that, we come to the last question, that is called as a write a note on frauds and scams. This could be written as a general question altogether. Why? Because whenever we write on frauds and scam, it is all about whatever the illegal activity that has taken place. I would say that when you write these kind of questions, please be very, very specific. Do not just write down only the negative part and just take it over. Frauds and scams have been happening across our country, across every country possibly in the world in different format. So whenever you write about it, you write it with relevant example. Tell them why this particular incident or activity has happened altogether. With this, I come to the end of this particular session. I hope and believe that all the questions that have been discussed here would be of a great importance to you and it will be of a great use to you in terms of the exams that is coming forward. I take this opportunity to wish all my students all the very best. Try to write the exam in a very neat, legible and concise manner so that you are able to score full marks in company law paper. Thank you once again for joining me today on this wonderful session.